Hello, hello, and welcome back to Minotaur Hotel. We're still here with our little snaky friend in the Ruthless path. Is this the best path? I don't know. I look forward to finding out. A sea hidden within the labyrinth, which itself hides the key to the prisoner's freedom. However, there is one complication. The son of Maya told you of the many constraints placed upon the Master's power within this realm, did he not? Of course! How else is the Argos meant to contend with the realm's power? If he lacks knowledge of the Lord's God-granted capabilities. Name for me, then, the substances with the labyrinth is forbidden from generating. Well, let's see. Currency, of course, as well as precious metals like gold and silver. Nor anything else profitable for a trade, such as spices or dyes or salt in large quantities. Ah. I see the problem has made itself apparent to you. Indeed, even the gods are capable of such oversights. A sea such as this, no matter how large it may be, is no sea if it brings the brine of Poseidon's realm. And even if this was a true sea, Poseidon failed to communicate any of this to his descendant. Do not despair. That artifact I gave you shall be a sufficient substance. And once his sea has its brine, we may yet find a way to fulfill this mandate ourselves. So throw this stone into the lake, and it will become the sea it was intended to be. From there, we'll only need to bring the prisoner here, throw him into the water, and Poseidon's gift shall appear, and that will allow the Minotaur his freedom at last. Not so fast, Orestes. You forget, the one who should be your ally in this, and yet has proven himself unfit for this role. Josh. Exactly right. But I am sure your serpent's mind is already dreaming up deception with which his interference can be foiled. I've got a few ideas. But first, getting the gift. Goddess, must all of the prisoners return to the sea to summon Poseidon's gift, or would only part of him suffice? His skin must be drenched by it for the mandate to be filled. With inspiration burning in his eyes, the snake approaches the tenebrous water lapped at the white sand and stone. He unwraps the artifact we gifted to him from the cloth that saddled it. Swaddled? Freeing the hunk of cursed rock from its hiding place. Dark as obsidian, and dark as the still waters stretching out within the underground cavern, dark as the ichor which runs in the god's reign. It was no easy matter to steal it away from its origin deep within the bedrock of the realm, but by our contract, with the usurper was the single shard granted. And now, now shall that shard be put to this usurper's purpose. The snake tosses it underhand, and the sound of it breaks that glassy surface, and then plunges into the depths, breaks the shrine's sacred silence for only a moment. And then he takes off the pelt he wears. The snake holds it up, as if to examine the defiled thing. The prisoner's hide, flayed from him in those ancient days of merciless masters, and then crafted into the costume of Argos Panopetes, by the first to bear the name within this realm. Its origins are vile to any modern sensibilities, and yet over the years it has been worn with pride by all who take the role of foreman. To cast it aside is to cast aside that role and the oath he took when he was granted that title. The snake must know this, and yet it is not the pole of pious duty, which makes him hold it against his chest. How many of his lineage have worn that pelt over the centuries? How painful must it be to cast aside an heirloom, vile though its origins may be, of one's ancestors? He hugs it one last time, praying for forgiveness and love before he tosses it into the lake. The curse-touched waters boil and fizzles like acid upon it. The pelt withers like a living thing, struggling against the pull of the depths as it sinks. Okay. A bellow of agony, much like the one which issued from the throat of that skin's original owner, as it was peeled from his steeped hide back. Yes, filled the cavern just before it disappears. And then it is gone, leaving only faded echoes of the quiet murmuring of the snake's voice behind. Goodbye, Popoli? The snake is silent, lips pursed together, as he turns away from the glassy lake. He starts in surprise at seeing the change to the statue of the story. Its palms now cups something within its grasp, as though offering it. A fist-sized glass sphere, filled with swirling aquamarine light, Poseidon's parting gift. Take it, Orestes. This is what we have come for. And now, leave this place behind. There is nothing more for you here. Once the gift has been swaddled and tucked into the crook of his arm, the snake travels up the passage to the surface. As he leaves that silvery, sourceless illumination behind, he finds his way lit by faint traces of the recovered artifact's own shimmering. Even through the cloth, its light can be seen. Even through the cloth, its power must be felt. The passageway grows hotter and easier to travel as the surface grows nearer. As such, and much like fate-scorned Orpheus, the snake doesn't dare look back. Clutching the bundle against his side, the snake squeezes his body through the rocky cleft. Wow. Okay. And he only narrowly avoids being crushed by the maddened beast that slams itself against the cliff wall. The effigy of infamy, that god's crafted abomination of wood and ancient, irrepressible rage. Again, it flings itself towards the snake, and its blow are only narrowly avoided with a fortunate twist of the body. Panic stabs into the snake's mind, hot and white as the searing prominences which lash from the joints in the thing's husk. How? Why? What is it that drew the effigy to this place? His frantically scrambling mind latches onto the only possible conclusion, the sacrificed pelt. As it sank into the water far below, it cried out to the prisoner's voice. Did that cry of pain echo up to the hidden passageway from the bellows of the earth, or reach the effigy's ears? Did the thing's mind, whatever serves as its mind, mistake that voice for its hated prey? Whether or not it is where it is the case, the effigy's attention has been drawn. It rears back and slams its hoof into the cliff, and dust and shards of rock rain over the snake as he slithers for his life. The sharp agony of stone scrapes against his scales is far preferable to having his body broken by the effigy. And so he withers, desperate to escape out of that too narrow opening. The thing tosses its head in wild, blind furrow, the cruel points of his horns arched forward to stab and tear and gore, seek out vulnerable flesh to sink into. One of them finds its mark. A violent starburst of red and then inky blackness overtake the left side of the snake's vision. Sticky, wet heat runs down his cheek and neck. He doesn't even realize he's screaming. However, it seems the fates have not yet drawn the full length of his life's thread. Rather than finishing maiming the victim of its wrath, the mad beast focuses all its attention on gaining entry to the passage hidden in the rock. Again and again, it throws itself at the cliff wall, already forgetting the presence slithering out from underneath his stomping hooves. The snake is left to make his retreat, weeping and moaning, and clutching at his face. And clutching as well the swaddled bundle, which remains tucked into the crook of his arm. It is too precious a thing, greater than any injury that could be inflicted upon him, to be lost right at the moment of its retrieval. The late afternoon sun reveals many hidden crevices and burrows in which a wounded creature may take shelter. The snake finds one such burrow under a shelf of rock, pressing himself into the shade and turning his injured face away from Apollo's fire. Dull, throbbing pain spreads through his skull, beating him like a drum within him. His fumbling fingers gingerly trace over his left eye, or rather, what's left of it. His stomach churns when he feels the pulpy mess dabbled upon his cheek. And then it clenches, sending hot bile shooting up to burn his throat. Okay, when one of his digits delved into the empty socket. Woozy, reeling, nausea threatening to overtake him as dark fog lapses over the corners of his mind. But he can't lose himself to the sweet oblivion of unconsciousness. Not here. To do so would be a death sentence. He has to stop bleeding. He had to dress his wounds. With no other recourse, he pulls the cloth from around the gift. The shining sphere is set aside, and the fabric is ripped into makeshift bandages. The snake hisses and grits its teeth in discomfort as he wipes away the worst of the mess, and then bites back a quiet scream as he forces a bundle of impromptu gauze into his eye socket. Then he wraps a few strips around his head and ties them in knots to keep the dressing in place. It's not much, but it will have to do until he can make it back to his hovel, to the first aid kit that he had tucked away in case of emergencies such as this. Finally, the snake forces himself upright. He wipes the blood from his hands and scrubs stinging tears out of his remaining eye with his forearm. Then he picks up the gift and holds it in a tight, trembling grasp. Such a small thing, easy to mistake for some ostentatious babble and yet all depends upon bringing it safely to its rightful owner. And he sniffles, swallows, and then tries again. How exactly are we supposed to do that, O goddess? As before, with the mirror and the wine, you will need bait to draw the master's attention, a reward for some task, which will separate the jailer from the prisoner, and allow you, in that moment, to deliver the gift. From the sound of it, you already have something in mind. I do, though again I warn you, Orestes, if you take this path, then that wound you bear now may be the least of the ones you shall suffer. He shudders and swallows the lump taking root in his throat. Unwelcome thoughts skitter of this Mama and Bompus. Excuse me. What his face must look like, and how they will react when they see him again. When his mind turns to the hollowed-eyed prisoner ambling into the valley in the days before, commanded by the realm's master. That god-forsaken man and his rotten, stagnant humanity. All of the beauty and glory afforded to him squandered. And the snake thinks of his own role in the sordid affairs, all the pushing and prodding to send the prisoner out. All the pain that could have been avoided had he not played that role so well. With his eye closed, he holds onto his own regret, and the lightless depths of terror threaten to swallow him whole. Well, Orist, will you persist in the path of unblessedness? The snake flinches. Somehow, however, after a moment his expression grows resolute. I said I would bring justice no matter what. And I mean it, O goddess. This wound, and any other I will suffer, are mere trifles compared to that holy purpose. And if all goes well, our runes will issue into blessings. The snake grits his teeth and forces a smile. For the sake of his own mind, he curses Master Josh and pushes away all thought of his own actions. He sees, yet vengeance blinds him. Very well, Orestes. Keep that resolve. Hold it close within your breast. You will need it. Come. The light of Helios fades as that great furious chariot passes behind the mountain ridge. In its place, glimmering ribbons dance through the darkened sky. Their colors as shifting and ethereal as their serpentine forms. The air atop the shrine plateau is filled with them. They dart to and fro in ceaseless revelry, gathered in the sacred place to bear witness to the snake's ceremony. Around his waist is tied a sacred knot. Yet more of those little flame snakes curled and coiled about it. Their light shifts with his every swaying movement, sending prismatic embers scattering into the early evening shadows. A canvas bag is slung over his shoulders, a first aid kit rattling within it. The last thing he needs is to be caught unprepared. Should my warning of more injuries come to pass. In his hands, he holds the instrument of the ritual he prepares to perform. Scavenged from his belongings upon his return to the hovel, an empty glass vial and a pocket knife. The blade is small, but sufficient for the sacrifice to be made. And last but by no means the least, tucked under his arm is the wine bottle of the kind known to heal the prisoner. The snake slithers past the altar of Zeus Olympus, past the altar of bright-eyed Athena. He leaves the ever-watchful sight of the Olympians behind, and indeed coils coils himself before the Karn? Tucked shyly away near the plateau's edge. A pile of rocks no higher than his waist, with a length of fabric tied around it. It's an old thing, erected by a prisoner within the first few years of his sentence in this realm. Perhaps the thought of the old goddess of the Minoan ancestors would grant the mercy refused to him by the Olympians. Okay. I'll end the part here, guys, so I'll see you around.